Chapter 1 In the Trenches. I woke up, stood up to make my bed, and saw a giant 3-foot tear in my sheet, in the exact spot where my body lay. It was a 500-count sheet and fairly new. How did this happen? I knew it wasn't there the day before. On another occasion, I woke up and just lay in bed, trying to get the sleepy seeds out of my eyes, when I looked at my bedroom window straight in front of me and saw what looked like a bear's claw that had left its mark in the condensation from last night's cold air. And still on another occasion, I was sitting in the room where I pray each day, and looked over at the base of my fireplace hearth when I saw something sticking out from between the hearth and floor. I stepped over to get a closer look and discovered that it looked like a claw. I had to struggle to pull it out because it was deeply embedded. The 1.5-inch object was in the shape of a claw and had a hard surface like a claw, but it appeared to be made of something natural, like a plant or root. I didn't know what it was or how it got there, but I was angry it was there. I tossed it outside and spoke words such as, "You can't stay here, get out." There are some who might say that I lived in a haunted house. The truth is that I was living in a home that sat on land that had been cursed by a warlock decades ago. As an intercessor, God showed me the root of all the evil happenings, and then assigned me to the task that would bring deliverance not only to my home, but my neighborhood and small country town. January 31st, 2018 was D-Day at my home. Day of deliverance. For 7 months, I prayed for God to give me breakthrough regarding the evil influence on my household. Through prayer, God revealed to me that the evil wasn't only over my home and property, but it was spread for miles throughout my small town. This revelation occurred upon learning of a 4th vehicular death, which happened within 1 year's time, all within a 2-mile radius of my home, and occurring in locations which formed a circle around my property. After the 4th death, I invited my 2 prayer partners to visit the 4 spots to pray and release life into the locations of each accident. We went with a container of water to pour out onto the land, which symbolized the pouring out of the life of Jesus. We stood on God's promise, quote, "Then he showed me a river of water of life, clear as crystal, flowing out of the throne of God and of the Lamb down the middle of the street." End quote. During this prophetic prayer walk, one friend could see in the spiritual realm a very tall wall being erected which formed a circle around the vicinity. Following this day of prayer, I felt led to print out a single satellite map of my property and the properties to our left and right. For months, I placed my hand over this map and prayed for God to pour out his light and life. I also prayed that the blood of Jesus would cover over and cleanse the land and its inhabitants. Within time, I learned that the 3 properties began as one property a few decades earlier, and so it became clear why God had me praying over all 3 instead of just our own. Within the months to follow, God gave me dreams and visions that revealed there was witchcraft influencing our home. In my first dream, I was in my home and looking out the back window into the dark night. I saw a warlock who appeared to be in his late teens in the backyard of the home on our right. He then came into the center of my backyard, where he proceeded to spin around and around with his black cape billowing in the wind. I then watched him walk through the back door of our home as if he lived there. My family members went on doing what they were doing, as if not seeing him enter, but I saw him. The second dream is as follows. I walked outside my home to my backyard, where I noticed that a stockade fence that surrounded the border of our property was lying flat upon the ground. There was no fence in the natural realm. Standing on the border of our property, where the fence was once erected, were two men who were constructing a system where they could monitor everything that took place in our home. I noticed a line of loose dirt from my house to where they stood, because they had buried wires under the ground so as not to be detected. I told them that they had to stop what they were doing and leave. It was months later when I came to understand that the two men represented two spirits of witchcraft, one that came from a person who has been a foe of mine for many years, and the other came from the warlock who placed a curse on our property. These two spirits joined forces to steal, kill, and destroy from me and my family. This is the enemy's mission for all of God's children. However, there is a wanted poster of me and my family because of our ministry, which leads many to receive salvation, healing, and deliverance from Satan's evil clutches. Within time, God revealed to me that the curse released by the warlock occurred approximately 30 years prior. Since then, there has been a long trail of death and destruction in my neighborhood and town. Most interesting to note is the common factors regarding the car accidents. Most of the deaths occurred in males, and they were around the age of 17. The warlock in my dream was a male who looked about the age of 17. In the past 2 years, the family who now lives on our right has been affected by 2 vehicular deaths. The first incident occurred to the wife of the home, who was about 4 miles from home, when a man drove straight through a stop sign and hit her. The accident claimed his life. The second incident was the third vehicular accident that I mentioned earlier. The teen's son in this same home had friends over one night, and they decided to walk to the ice cream store nearby. Only a quarter-mile from home, a driver drove off of our road, hitting the son's 17-year-old friend before driving off and leaving him dead. This incident triggered my memory of several other young men who were killed in vehicular accidents, which I learned from my husband and a neighbor. My husband told me of the tragedy which involved the family who lived in our home prior to us. This family had a teen son who was driving his motorcycle only a half-mile down the road when he was hit by another vehicle and killed. The following car accidents happened around 30 years ago and were told to me by a neighbor who lives 5 miles from my home. One day when I had stopped to chat with her, she had introduced me to her mentally challenged 50-year-old son. She told me that her son had gotten into a car accident when he was 17 years old, and it left him with severe brain damage. She also added the fact that my neighbor who abuts the warlock's home lost 2 teen sons in the years surrounding her son's accident. She explained that the sons were in 2 separate vehicular accidents, only 1 year apart, which resulted in death. In the home on our left lives a family with a son who is a Satanist. This young man had been holding weekend-long Woodstock-type gatherings for several years, where rebellious young people came to worship everything evil, including drugs, alcohol, sex, and Satan. On 2 occasions, God had led me to go to town council meetings to put an end to these gatherings, in which I succeeded by pointing out that they were in violation of many zoning laws. However, my neighbor, a vessel of Satan, got other neighbors to join his side, and they each came against me. I not only had enemies surrounding me in the supernatural realm, but also in the natural realm. In addition to the spirits of witchcraft, it became very evident that a spirit of death was invading my home and coming for me. Several months prior, I was driving home with my spiritual daughter from an evening service at church. We were about 5 miles from home when a car crossed over 2 lanes and was heading straight toward us in my lane. It was quite close to hitting me when both cars swerved away at the last minute and avoided collision. I immediately pulled over and stopped, where I tried desperately to make my heart slow down to a normal pace. While sitting there, I suddenly saw a very large warrior angel looking down over my car. He was dressed in armor and had a red feather on the top of his helmet. He also had a large 2-edged sword in his hand. I knew that this angel had thwarted the plans of the enemy to take my life and my spiritual daughter, and add to the rising death toll of vehicular deaths in my vicinity. Twice within the month leading up to D-Day, I was with my prayer partners when I felt a sudden sharp pain in my heart, which led to heart palpitations. My friends prayed and rebuked the spirit that attacked my heart, and my heart became at peace. 2 weeks prior to D-Day, God gave me a dream where there was a rat running around my home and trying to scurry around without being seen. I alerted my husband, who caught the rat and banged it on the head with a hammer, snuffing out its life. Just days apart from this dream, my son and I were sitting quietly when the basement door was banged open from inside the basement. It was as if a person banged it with a fist. There was no natural cause for this occurrence. The next day, I invited my prayer partners to come over and pray in my basement. We were going rat hunting. While prayer walking in my basement, I sensed a spirit of death. While the 3 of us prayed, I felt led to get a hammer and do a prophetic act by slamming the hammer to the floor to kill the rat. Days later, on D-Day, God used 6 of his warriors to bring the victory that defeated the rat. Psalms 18, verse 34 states, He trains my hands. Psalms 18, verse 34 states, He trains my hands for battle, so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze.